Welcome to the Bare Minimum Health Podcast. Here we live despite chronic pain and chronic fatigue by reclaiming the bare minimum. We know that the bare minimum is the stuff that makes the biggest impact. The bare minimum is enough. Following your own definition of the bare minimum health plan allows you to feel your best and bring your best to the rest of your life. Join the journey and uncover your unique path to wellness. Welcome back to the Bare Minimum Health Podcast. This week, I'd like to encourage you to think about when you are doing your habits. Sometimes when is just as important as what when it comes to establishing and maintaining a habit. For instance, if you're trying to create a movement habit of some variety, experiment with different times of the day: early morning, before lunch, after work. See how each time affects your energy and your consistency and the resistance to starting. Small shifts in the timing can actually lead to lasting changes. The exercise that you do is better than the perfect routine that you never do. We often chase perfection in exercise and in life more generally, and forget that our bodies need and crave movement. If you struggle with perfectionism, it's a natural response to the pressures of life. I personally loved The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. If you aren't familiar with it, go check it out because I found it really helpful when I was first grappling with this in my life. But back to the topic at hand, it's important to remember that, as with anything in life, balance is key. Inactivity causes pain just as much as over-exercising. We talk about increasing exercise only because the majority of us work sedentary jobs and have sedentary hobbies. So we need to intentionally build in movement. Movement can be enjoyable. It should feel good. While you might not always want to start, it should feel good and satisfying when you are done, even when you're tired and sore. If you hate everything about the exercise, before, during, and after, try a different type of movement. There are almost as many ways to move your body as there are bodies in the world. Dance, walk, run, swim, do yoga, curl, kayak, lift weights, bike, whatever works for you. When you exercise actually does matter. Not so much about optimizing for the best possible gains, but rather finding a time that fits your life and is sustainable makes a big difference. For some people, early morning works wonders because there's fewer distractions and more willpower at the beginning of your day. But for those of us with arthritis-related morning stiffness, this might feel like an uphill battle, especially if you do want to do more intense exercises, and that's not a good time to do it. So experiment to find your rhythm, whether that's a gentle morning routine to ease that stiffness, or maybe if you have a longer lunch, you can work in some movement before or after you eat. If you work away from the house, you can do your exercise before you get home and get into the flow of your evening routine. This also allows you to use your schedule to remind you when it's time to move or do more intense or structured exercise, so you don't have to rely on willpower or remembering. I've been experimenting with this in my own life. In particular, I love yoga. I had a strong practice several years ago, and I found it really helpful in terms of mental health as well as strengthening my body. And it has been a journey to try to get back to some level of that. I thought working from home these last couple of years would make it easier. After all, I could do it whenever, but that ended up becoming the Achilles heel because I could always do it later. Recently, I started practicing yoga right before eating lunch. When I waited until after I ate, I lost the motivation to want to move. And sometimes I would end up picking my phone up to look for a video and start scrolling instead. I realized as well that my brain was trying to procrastinate going back to work because I didn't actually take a break. Because the internet scroll hole is so enticing and so easy, our brains think that it's a good break. But it's so sticky, it's so easy to get sucked in that it's hard to disengage and go back to whatever it is you actually want yourself to be doing. And that's what I found I was getting stuck in. This came together when I started doing yoga before eating. Just the intent of moving my body after sitting in a chair for 4 hours, but it also gave my brain an actual real break away from a screen, away from thinking about what is going on and what I'm trying to accomplish. I feel more grounded, and my phone, the internet, became less appealing. If I still want to listen to something while I eat, I've been defaulting to podcasts or audiobooks, something where I'm not looking at a screen and that is more long form and calm, I think is the best word for that. It's interesting, so it captures my attention enough, but it doesn't hook my brain the same way that scrolling does. So it's been a two for one habit reset. I found space for movement that has been consistent, and I've been able to come back to it when I've taken a break for whatever reason. And at the same time, I've reduced screen time. It's another reminder to me that changing when you do something can have a ripple effect on other areas of your life. So, as you work on incorporating movement or any other habit that you're trying to do, don't just think about what you're doing, consider when you are doing it and experiment with that timing. You might be surprised at the difference that it makes. So, until next week, experiment and keep moving forward.